homemade beef vegetable soup. All my vegetables in this soup are fresh, including the corn that I took off the cob. I'm using oxtail as my soup bone. It takes a lot of time, but it's well worth the effort. Let's get started on Darlene's table. Okay, you can see how brown the bottom is. This is actually the second batch of stew meat that I'm going to brown. You want it to be a little crusty, and when I say brown, I mean brown on all sides. Do not crowd the pan, otherwise all you get is the beef releasing a lot of juice and you don't get the browning. So here are my ingredients that I prepped yesterday. My onions, celery, carrots, green beans, my shredded cabbage, and I even peeled my potatoes a little, took out the bad places, and they're covered in water so they don't brown. I just left the potatoes on the counter overnight. It didn't have to go in the refrigerator. And then I'm adding the can of Marzano whole tomatoes. And this is the fresh corn that I took off the cob yesterday as well. So you see how I'm browning the meat? Okay, this gives you the really good beef flavor in the soup. So out it comes. Now I still have the oxtail to brown. That'll be next. I couldn't find any good soup bones at the grocery, and it's very rare that I can, unless you've got a butcher to go to and can get some good bones. Use this oxtail. The oxtail works great and adds a lot of flavor. But we're going to brown them just like I did the stew meat. Now, that is not burned in the bottom of this pot. It doesn't smell burned. It's not burned. We are just browning the meat that dark. Brown the meat on all sides. I've got it on about a medium, and then sometimes I would turn it back to between low and medium. So the oxtails are coming out. They're browned on all sides. I'm putting the meat back in, just the stew meat, and the onions, and the celery, going to cook this just a few minutes. And what that's also going to do is get a lot of that brown off the bottom, which is going to contribute to the flavor. Now I'm going to add the tomatoes. Mash them up if you use the whole tomatoes. I really like the stewed tomatoes, but I didn't have them. The canned whole tomatoes work just fine. So give this all a good stir. I'm going to add the cabbage. See how thinly I sliced it? There are a few little larger pieces, but most of it is thin. And 8 cups of water. I'm going to cover this up in a moment. Salt and pepper. That was at least a teaspoon and a half. I'm going to put the oxtail back in on top of the cabbage. This cabbage will cook down, way down, but you will still find some pieces in the soup. I added another 1.5 cups of water. That's in addition to the 8 cups I'd already added, because I thought it needed it. Don't worry, it's not going to dilute the flavor. Now I'm using the beef better than bouillon that you can buy in any grocery. I would put 3 to 4 teaspoons in there, but that was all I had left. So in addition to that, I'm going to add a little bit later, I'll wind up adding some beef granules. So this is going to cook 1.5 to 2 hours, which it did. Now I'm taking the oxtail out. Let the oxtail cool just a little bit, and I'll remove what meat I can from the bones. I did cook the meat for like 2 hours and the oxtail, so it's real tender. Now I'm adding 4 more cups of water, my carrots, my fresh corn, I like to use the red potatoes because they don't get a mealy texture if you freeze any of the soup. If you use russet potatoes instead of the red potatoes, they will have a mealy texture if frozen. So I'm removing what meat I can from the oxtail, and then after it's cooled a little, my husband will gladly do the rest. Add the oxtail meat back to the soup. And this is such a large pot that I'll need to bring it to a simmer for about 30 minutes. If you have cut your recipe size down, the vegetables will not take as long, all right? They just won't take as long. You'll have to test them with a fork, maybe 15 to 20 minutes instead of the 30 that I'll do with this large pot. I'm tasting for salt and pepper. You can add other vegetables like parsnips or turnips, would be great in this soup. After taste testing, I decided it needed some more of the beef granules, so I added beef granules because I'm out of the better than bouillon, which I prefer. I'm adding additional meat from the oxtail that my husband was able to cut off for me. Next, the green beans. My vegetables are almost done. I'm adding the green beans, fresh green beans that have been trimmed and snipped. Bring it back to a simmer. Test the green beans in 20 minutes. Mine took about 30, but it's because it's such a large pot. This is a 10-quart stock pot. And this soup is ready to eat. I have to tell you the truth. This soup was time consuming, but the end product was totally worth it. I'm at a loss for words, really. There is no way to describe to you just how wonderful this bowl of soup is. All I can say is that I have neighbors that can verify my claim. To me, the soup is one of those dishes that has a time and a season, and this was it. This soup will warm your soul and satisfy your tummy and melt all your cares away. I promise. It's love in a bowl. You can find the printable recipe on our new website, Darlene's Table. Again, I really appreciate you guys, and I hope to see you again soon on Darlene's Table.